Can Shanks achieve a black blade? Let's get into it. Before we talk about the possibility of Shanks even getting a black blade, we gotta define what a black blade is. A black blade is the ultimate ranking a sword can become, and black blades are thought to be forged through Conqueror's Haki. In Chapter 1033, we learn from Shimotsuki Kazubura that swords are like people and swordsmen are the ones who tame the sword and bend them to their will. In that same chapter, we see that Enma is testing Zoro, and it's not how much armament haki he's using, it's the Conqueror's Haki, and if Zoro can bend Enma to his will. And when Zoro finally understands that it's Conqueror's Haki he needs to imbue Enma with, we get the Studley as all hell panel where it shows Zoro imbuing Enma with Conqueror's Haki and using Conqueror's coding. In the world of One Piece, there are many Conqueror Haki users, but the strongest Conqueror we've seen is Shanks. In 1055, we were able to see how Shanks was able to impose his own will onto a Navy Admiral while he was still at sea. This is the greatest feat we've seen from Conqueror's Haki in One Piece history. And Shanks is a figure who's been imposing his will onto others since the very beginning of this series. Anywhere from sea monsters to the world's strongest with Whitebeard, even Blackbeard, the new emperor, wouldn't want to pick a fight with Shanks because he knew that he wasn't ready for Shanks. Shanks just imposes such a overwhelming aura and spirit that most people will not pick a fight with him. Shanks is one of the strongest people in the series, and he doesn't even have a confirmed devil fruit. He just relies on his haki, and we don't know his fighting style aside from his sword that he has. So it would make more sense for him of all people to be able to have a black blade. And the argument could be made that just because you're strong and you have strong will doesn't mean you will get a black blade. For example, prime example is Gold Roger. He didn't have a black blade and he is the strongest person in the One Piece universe. I can explain why he doesn't have a black blade. So hear me out. First off, we don't know the exact requirements to getting a black blade. We don't know if there's a time limit or the time restraint of how many years you have to be a swordsman before you're worthy of unlocking a black blade. And we also do not know what the actual specific requirements are. All we know is you have to bend the sword to your will, and Conqueror's Haki is used for that to kind of instill your will upon the sword and make it a black permanent blade. And there lies the main issue. So if we look at Roger, from everything we know about him, is he wants to be Pirate King. And Pirate King, we don't know exactly what that means, but the closest definition we ever got was from Luffy, who reminds Shanks of his former captain, where Luffy said, I don't want to be the king, I want to be the Pirate King because that's the freest person in the world. So I would argue it is against Roger's nature to force something to obey him. And I believe this is the key difference between Roger and any swordsman that is trying to get a black blade. Roger will intimidate and fight to get what he wants, but to actually force someone to follow him just doesn't fit his character. And I believe this is the biggest reason why he doesn't have a black blade. Because Roger doesn't want anyone to follow him, he doesn't want anyone to serve him, he just wants to be free, and that's why him and Luffy are so alike. That's what being Pirate King means, is being free. But to get a black blade means to do the opposite of what Roger wanted. It's what he hated, is to be enslaved, and he didn't want to enslave anything. And by making the sword follow him and bend his will, it's basically like enslaving it and making it where it has no free will of its own and just has to follow the master. And that's definitely not Roger's style. So that's the biggest reason why he doesn't have a black blade. And again, to talk about what I said earlier, is we don't know the exact qualifications to get a black blade. It could be where to get a black blade you have to be a disciplined swordsman and make that your focus for a blade to accept you and become black. But we don't know what Roger's fighting style was. We don't know if he was even serious about being a swordsman or if he just had his sword just to be a conduit for his immense haki. I also want to point out that Roger was fighting a deadly illness during the last half of his journey where he would have probably unlocked a black blade. And to unlock a black blade, you need to be able to pump it with a lot of haki and be using a lot of conquerors to kind of overwhelm it and to make it yours. So I can see if Roger was sick and battling an illness, he wouldn't be at 100% strength, so he wouldn't be able to put enough haki into the blade to make it black. But fast forward from Gold Roger's era to now, we have an adult Shanks who's been training in the sword for many years, and that's his main weapon. We only see him with the sword, we always see him use a sword, and especially after he lost his arm to protect Luffy, it kind of limits his combat options, so he is more than likely very skilled swordsman. It's even stated that Mihawk and Shanks used to duel back in the day, so they are actually rivals and they actually can go toe to toe with each other. We also don't know anyone in the series to have gone face to face with Mihawk on multiple occasions. Even Mihawk might have lost to Shanks at some point, because when Mihawk first showed up to Shanks all the way back in East Blue to show Shanks Luffy's bounty, Shanks said, "I'm not here to fight, Mihawk. Do you got something you want to say?" And Mihawk said, "As if I want to settle things with a man with only one arm." When Mihawk said,
"I have no intention of settling the score,"
that means that Shanks must have gotten the better of him in some of their duels, because they have fought multiple times during the course of their life. So Shanks and Mihawk have an actual respect for each other as swordsmen. That's incredible. That's insane. Shanks is literally recognized as a worthy adversary for the #1 ranked swordsman in the world. Maybe the strongest swordsman we've ever seen in history. Mihawk is that strong. And you're telling me that Shanks does not have a black blade? Come on.
What?
Come on. Come on. Nah.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
No. Shanks definitely has the ability to have a black blade if he doesn't have one already. On top of that, Shanks also holds Griffin, which is one of the 12 supreme grade swords, which are the highest class swords of the verse. So now we have not only a top Conquer Haki user, a top swordsman, and now an owner of one of the strongest and most well-made blades in existence. It isn't far-fetched for Shanks to become a black blade user or to have his own black blade. We haven't seen, from my knowledge, Shanks draw his sword since Marineford. I have not seen this man unsheath his sword since Marineford when he stopped the war. So after 2 long years of training, I could see him having a black blade right now. And if he doesn't have one right now, I can definitely see him getting one by the end of the series. I believe Shanks, of all people, should have it. He is a Yonko. He is already top 4 in the verse. Honestly, right now, after Kaido and Big Mom took an L, Shanks is probably the strongest person in the world right now. So if he doesn't have a black blade, it would be insane. And to think that by the end of the series, it's only going to be Zoro and Mihawk and Ryuma, who have only been the ones that we have seen to unlock a black blade, I think that's kind of crazy. I think that is absurd to think that there's only going to be 3 black blade users in the whole verse. There has to be more than 3 black blade users. If that's the case, then black blade users will be more scarce than Conqueror's Haki and Mythical Zone type fruits. We have to see by the end of the series other black blade users. It doesn't make sense that there'd only be 2, Zoro and Mihawk, and it'd make more sense to have an antagonist have a black blade, especially when you're at the end game, when everyone's going after the One Piece, when everyone makes it to Raftel. Someone has to have a black blade, and my money's on Shanks. But if it's not Shanks, my other guess is a Gurusei member, the bald dude with the sword. I could see, and he has like the original Sandai Katetsu. I could see him as a black blade user. But for right now, my money is on Shanks definitely being a black blade user. But tell me what you guys think in the comments below, and thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.